Well, a war on whistleblowers in America. Another government official has allegedly blown the whistle and facing the consequences for doing so. A former CIA officer by the name of John Kiriakou was indicted on Thursday on charges of leaking secrets to journalists. But it's not the first time he's been in hot water for blowing the whistle. He's the man that exposed the CIA's use of waterboarding on terrorist suspects. And there is another case that's not quite making the headlines. Sybil Edmonds, a former FBI language specialist that blew the whistle on security breaches and cover-ups within the FBI. She says the FBI has attempted to block her from making it public in her book. And we have that book right here. This is the book that's in question. It's entitled Classified, the Sybil Edmonds Story. So is there an effort to silence whistleblowers today? For some answers, someone who knows a lot about this subject, Stephen Kohn, attorney for Sybil Edmonds and author of this book, The Whistleblower's Handbook. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So you represent Ms. Edmonds in this case. Tell us a little bit more about it and how the FBI has responded to her blowing the whistle.
Well, she was fired years ago, and her case had a lot of notoriety, and it was one of the first cases where the Bush administration invoked the state's secrets privilege, which is this doctrine that essentially puts a censorship veil over everything you want to blow the whistle on. But this fight over the exposure of government misconduct goes all the way back to the American Revolution and the First Amendment. And the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution was enacted to prevent precisely what we're seeing unfolding today. People in the government witness the abuses, and they have a right to blow the whistle on it. And that's where Sybil Edmonds' case, I think, is going to be critical, because we are challenging the legal predicates that they have used to prosecute and suppress whistleblowers throughout this country. And we're challenging them now because they're illegal and unconstitutional. We're taking the offensive.
Now, you are saying that this dates back to the First Amendment, that is freedom of speech. So would you say then that this attack on whistleblowers is then an attack on freedom of speech?
Absolutely. It's fundamental to speech. And if you go back to what our founding fathers said, they said that it's government misconduct, that the government wants to suppress the public ever learning about. So the heart of the First Amendment, its essential core, was to permit people to expose government abuses. But what we see in these censorship cases is that the government is using its power to intimidate, to prosecute, to threaten, and to stop government employees with information, be it waterboarding, information like Sybil Edmonds had about misconduct in the translation services, preventing the American people learning about the abuses of their government. And that's why we have the First Amendment. You know, okay, it's fun, you can read People magazine or watch TV, that's great, it's all protected under the First Amendment. But the heart of it, the core of the First Amendment, is the protection of people who want to expose the misconduct of government.
Now, President Obama has in the past, especially when he was campaigning for president, has vowed to protect whistleblowing in the U.S. And here's what he has said about it. I think we have that clip here.
I wrote the brief for the federal law, the federal whistleblowers law, to make sure that it applied in more situations. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we won. So I know a little bit about whistleblowing and making sure that those folks get protection.
Okay, so President Obama there speaking out, saying that whistleblowers vowed to protect whistleblowers, yet President Obama has been, actually the way that it's played out is he's been quite aggressive in dealing with whistleblowers, much more so than even the Bush administration. Why is that? What is behind that?
Well, we need an adult in the room. We need someone to stand up and say, ethics in government is important. And those in the government who want to suppress dissent have to be either pushed back or they have to be fired. We have to be aggressive on this. Obama has essentially taken national security and all of the issues and all of the whistleblower concerns and ditched it. He's been good on whistleblowing in the private sector. He's actually almost schizophrenic. On some whistleblower issues, he's been good. But for national security, for people who want to expose violations in the FBI and the CIA in Iraq and Afghanistan, critical issues, he's been terrible, but he follows in the footsteps of every other president, except the founding fathers, who actually defended national security whistleblowers and pushed through the First Amendment. That's why in this case, we're not sitting back and saying, you know, prosecute me, destroy me. We're getting aggressive. We are demanding that the FBI adhere to the First Amendment and that rules and regulations that are in violation of that fundamental principle of human rights be voided.
Now, we have your book here, the Whistleblower's Handbook, a step-by-step guide to doing what's right and protecting yourself. What is your #1 piece of advice to whistleblowers today?
#1, believe it or not, is follow the money. Follow the money. Most of corruption is financially induced. There are defense contracts. There are jobs people are trying to protect. There's billions in taxpayer money. Follow the money. Most of the retaliation is financially based, and there's actually some very powerful whistleblower laws that can protect you if you use them right. And the most important whistleblower law is the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. We have to put teeth behind it, we have to reinvigorate it, and we have to make sure our officials adhere to it.
And lastly, Stephen, we are seeing a lot of these cases. We spent a lot of time covering the case of Bradley Manning, the alleged whistleblower that allegedly leaked hundreds of thousands of documents to the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks. Amid all this, what is the future of whistleblowing in America?
It's a constitutional crisis. If you look at the Manning case, forget the First Amendment, they tossed that out. They denied him bail. They submitted him to cruel and unusual punishment. 3 constitutional violations. We have to draw a line. We have to demand that our constitutional rights are protected. We have to take those claims to court and go all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary, and then we have to go to Congress and the American people and fight for those rights. These rights are not passive. If you wait for someone to give them to you, they will retaliate and you'll be waiting a long time. It's important for the whistleblowers to get aggressive, to understand where their protections are, what laws are out there, and use them. This agreement they had Sibel Edmonds sign is illegal under Supreme Court precedent. So we had to dig through the documents, find it, and now we're going to push it, because this document, that their censorship document that they predicate their censorship on, said that the director of the FBI can censor federal employees if they disagree with the policy being advocated by those employees. That is unconstitutional. All of the cases say their right to censor is limited to classified and secret. Yet the FBI is saying they can censor based on policy. These are the types of rules that they sneak in that have to be challenged.
All right, and I'm sure you talk a lot about that in your whistleblower handbook.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. That was Stephen Kohn, attorney for Sibel Edmonds and author of the book, The Whistleblower's Handbook.